It was always the Jags.
It's always the Jags.
It's always the Jags.
Always the Jags.
Welcome into Always the Jags. Today we are discussing the Jaguars' unfortunate loss to the Miami Dolphins. It was a hard-fought game and a game I feel like I predicted us to win, of course. And I feel like will overall be okay. I don't think that loss sinks our season. I don't think there's any reason to believe that we're done for the entire season because of that loss. But after watching how the Bills absolutely stomped on Miami, it is not gonna lie, it is a little bit harder to be okay with that loss because there's a good chance we will end up losing to the Bills because they're playing way better than I expected, like way better. And I know maybe I shouldn't have written off the Bills the way that I kind of did. I just It's not that I was expecting them to be bad. I just didn't expect them to be just as good as they were last year because there was some drop off. They lost players, they lost um they don't have Stephon Diggs anymore, and so it's a little difficult to imagine how good they ended up being, but if you watched Thursday Night Football last night, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Um, but anyway, enough about the Bills. Let's go ahead and start talking about the Jaguars versus the Dolphins. What happened, what we need to do to fix, and how we can avoid, and how we can end up beating the Browns coming up this week. So, because this Sunday in Cleveland for our home opener, which is going to be called the Trevor Bank Stadium, which I actually love for the home opener. I actually think that's super hilarious. So we're going to talk about what the Jaguars need to do in order to beat the Browns and how we could have beat the Dolphins because we definitely should have. I'm going live for this one, so again, I'm gonna try to go live every Thursday around 9. I just didn't get a chance yesterday, so try to make that more regular. But for right now, let's break down the Jaguars and the Dolphins. So, of course, like I said, it wasn't an ugly loss. I almost preferred if the Jaguars were trying to come back and then we just didn't quite make it and the score was 20-17, rather than us having been in firm control of the entire game and just kind of choked it away. But again, it doesn't. A lot of people look at that score, they look at the game, and they say, oh, the Jaguars choked. The Jaguars choked. And I get how it can look like that, right? But there's this thing in life called adrenaline. And adrenaline is crazy. Here's the thing, when people talk about football games having momentum and that momentum getting switched, the reason why that can make such a big impact is because adrenaline. When someone makes a game-changing play, everybody's blood gets pumping. And when your blood gets pumping in adrenaline, suddenly that guy that you've been trying to beat the entire game, again, because Tony Baselli breaks it down really well. Football, a lot of times it ends up just being about beating your man. Anybody can blow up a run play if the defensive tackle beats the guard. If he throws the guard off of him, he just blew up the run play, right? So you need scheme, but that scheme involves you beating your man, right? So, hey, what's up? Thanks for joining the live. So that skill involves you beating your man. And so for the Jaguars, when first of all, Jevon Holland, that might be, if the Dolphins make the playoffs, just based upon how close it's going to be, that play that Jevon Holland made on Travis Etienne is probably the best play the Dolphins will have this season. It's already one of the best plays they have this season because without it, there's no 80-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill, right? So, first of all, that was a very heads-up play. I don't even fault Travis Etienne for that. He just, when you're about to go into the end zone, every running back. It could have been Christian McCaffrey. It could have been anybody. Maybe not Christian McCaffrey, but it could have been anybody getting that ball punched out because you think you're about to score. You don't know there's a guy behind you. And Jevon Holland just got that peanut punch and jarred the thing loose. Had it went a couple inches out of the end zone, I don't know if that would have been a touchback or what, but I don't think we would have. I think we would have kept possession where Etienne lost it or something like that. I can't remember the exact rules, but I know it wouldn't have went back to Miami. So again, it's a game of inches. Jevon Holland made an incredible play, and it's really hard to fault the Jaguars too much for that because again, we did everything that we had to do. We were containing Tua, Waddle, and Hill. We were controlling the clock. And there was a lot of bad play on the Jaguars' part after that. It feels like after that momentum shift, our offense kind of crumbled. And again, to me, the Jaguars and the Dolphins are very evenly matched teams, playoff caliber teams, right? So since they're both evenly matched, again, the Dolphins, when Jevon Holland made that incredible play, they got an adrenaline boost. So suddenly, like I said, the momentum switch, everyone's blood is pumping. Tyreek Hill hit an extra gear. Those offensive linemen were able to hold their ground a lot stronger against our pass rush on that play. So all of that contributes to it. And the things that the Jaguars have to realize and learn is like for example, Trevor Lawrence. Like the reason why this kind of thing doesn't happen to like Tom Brady or something is because guys that are so good, they get to a point where they become the guy to make the game-changing play to put the adrenaline back in your favor. And that's what Trevor Lawrence has to be. That's what some of the guys on our team, that's what $55 million means. So it wasn't really about the fact that we started playing worse. It's the fact that we never switched the momentum back to us. And that's why Doug went for it on 4th and 1, because he really wanted to um, switch the momentum. He knew if we got that first down, Jaguars could have stolen some of that momentum back and kind of silenced that home crowd. And especially when you're at home, the crowd starts cheering when you get a big play. And now the blood on every defense, offense, special teams, everybody is going crazy because of that play by Jevon Holland. So again, I say all that to say that like that was just a good play. Like ultimately the Jaguars were playing like the better team. Um, but again, that adrenaline boost, like I said, your fullback gets involved. It's that extra push that you need to play better. And the Dolphins played better in the second half. And I think the difference is the Jaguars played just as good, it felt like, for that entire game. But the Dolphins played better in the second half because of Jevon Holland's play, because they had their adrenaline rushing through them, because their blood was like really going because that play was so crazy. And again, because that was in the third quarter. Sorry. So it wasn't even half. It was in the third quarter. We were up 17-7, about to go 24-7. So it's like, from an on paper standpoint, we did everything we should have. Again, had the ball, had Travis Etienne. He'll probably work on ball security, and he's been very good at it. But it's like, let's be honest, any running back in the NFL, that could happen to anybody. And again, I don't want to sit here and just like forgive the Jaguars because you got to win those games. Like momentum will shift, plays will happen. That's the thing. You can't stop game-changing plays all the time. So it's not really about Travis Etienne should have held onto the ball. It's about somebody should have made a play that quiets that momentum down. And we kind of did when the field goal missed, but that's not the same as blocking it. It's not the same as getting a first down on 4th and 1. It's just kind of like luck. You know what I mean? So Miami's defense still feels invigorated and like they can go out there and stop us again, which they did over and over and over again. We never even came close. So I say all that to say it was it was a heartbreaking game. I was watching it with my friend who's a Dolphins fan. And like, man, I was sitting there trash talking. I was like having a good old time right into the play. And I remember watching that. I was like, if we lose this game, that play is going to be the reason why. And then that's why. So again, I don't agree with Doug's decision to go for it on 4th and 1. I don't think that was the right call. I think, like I said, if this was the 49ers and Christian McCaffrey had dropped that ball, he also would have been the guy to make the game-changing play to get the offense back in gear, right? If Travis Etienne was able to reverse field and go all the way up the other side, I mean that would have been the game-changing play, but he couldn't get there. So again, I say all that to say, like, Trevor Lawrence getting paid 55 million, like, somebody on the team has to step up and be that person. And that could be causing a fumble, interception. Turnovers are always going to be the biggest one. And so again, Eric Armstead, Josh Allen making $30 million a year. Those are the guys where it's like, okay, the momentum has shifted. We need someone on our team to shift it back. And that's what we should have been able to do. And the fact that we weren't, shows that we have work to do. And maybe there's like I said, there are guys on our team that are supposed to be that kind of game changer, difference maker, momentum shifters. So now we got to move on to the Browns for our home opener, Trevor Banks Stadium, which I really do love that. I really do love that name change. Oh, hey, Ron just joined. My friend who's watching the Dolphins game with me as I'm talking about it just joined our live as I'm talking about it. He missed everything I was saying, but long story short, Jevon Holland made a game-changing play. The momentum shifted to the Dolphins, and it never looked back. Like I said, the Jaguars were handling them the entire game, but once you do that momentum, the home crowd gets involved, adrenaline gets involved. Now, those Dolphins players that were getting pushed around by our offensive line are suddenly pushing around our guys because they're able to beat their man one-on-one because the adrenaline gives them extra strength. That's the way that it works. And that's why momentum is so important. And especially based upon what happened to the Dolphins last night against the Bills. Had Jevon Holland not that made that play in the Jaguars game, Dolphins would be 0-2. They'd be talking very differently about their season. We still got to figure out more about Tua after that concussion. But, like I said, if the Dolphins end up making the playoffs, again, based upon how they showed it against the Bills, Jevon Holland might be the guy that saved their season. So that kid deserves a fat contract because that was the most heads up play uh, I think of the entire week one. Like I would say that's the best play of the entire week one because most of them were just blowouts or normal plays, and that was the one that completely shifted the game. So anyway, I say all that to say, moving on to week 2 versus the Browns. Now on paper, with Deshaun Watson's like professional life and personal life literally spiraling in a toilet, it feels like this is one that the Jaguars should handily take. Now the Cowboys did completely embarrass Deshaun Watson, and for good reason, even though he's kind of embarrassed himself for a long time here now, but that's for another topic. Um, Deshaun Watson, I mean, the Cowboys completely flummoxed and embarrassed Deshaun Watson, and so here's to hoping that the Jaguars can do the same thing. I mean, Micah Parsons is a beast, but so is Josh Hines Allen, and so is Trayvon Walker. I love the way Trayvon Walker's coming in. He had a really good game against the Dolphins. And then, like I said, that momentum chef really kind of crapped on like the good day he was having. Um, another just going back to the Miami Dolphins game. And Trevor had a good game. Like, let's be real. He had some critical drops on third down that really would have changed a lot of dynamics. Like, the first one happened before the momentum shift. Christian Kirk dropped an easy pass, which usually isn't him. So, he's still working his way back. It could be like first week jitters, stuff like that. But then in the second half, he dropped another play, a third down that hit him in the hands. And again, that's a play that fresh set of downs. Miami's defense will start to get tired. That could have been the play where we started to take over the game. And if we at least got a field goal out of that drive, okay, now we're going to overtime with a chance to reset momentum completely. But him dropping it, it just only, and again, every time we went 3 and out, it just gave more momentum to Miami, more adrenaline for their offense, because that's the way that it works. So this week to the Browns, so that's how we know like the and our Jaguars defense plays much more as a unit than necessarily does like individual stars. Like a lot of teams defensive just have like individual stars everywhere. Ours is kind of like a bunch of like really good guys, but it's not like we have A+ guys everywhere. We more just have like a bunch of B+ guys everywhere that kind of work as a unit and can stop a team that's driving, but again, don't really have like Josh Hines Allen is a superstar, but besides him, Foye Lucon's really good. We don't really have like superstar game changer plays. So to stop the Browns, we just need to get pressure on Deshaun Watson, and we need to beat up their receivers at the line of scrimmage. Like there's a couple of times where Amari Cooper got free against Dallas. We can't let that happen. Um, we're gonna need to give Someone's gonna have to cover someone one-on-one because Ronald Darby is gonna need help. So it's gonna be really tough because Tyson Campbell is on injured reserve, which is really rough news for the Jaguars. So Ronald Darby's gonna have to go up against Amari Cooper and maybe get some safety help. Foye Oluokun is gonna have to stop the run pretty much by himself. Him and Devin Lloyd are gonna have to be able to stop the run and just give Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker time to get home because against those tackles, like the way they got abused last week, they're gonna get abused this week. So as long as we can get Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker a little bit of time, they'll get home. So I expect a lot of press man by um our defensive coordinator, Ryan Nielsen. I expect a lot of press man plays because, again, that's what you do when you play man when you don't want the quarterback to get off a quick pass. Now, again, that's dangerous because if he has time and you're playing press man and they beat their man, now he may have a touchdown because there's no one behind there to defend him. So, I'm predicting a lot of two deep, two zone deep, two safeties back. Like I said, watching those top receivers. David Njoku was out, which kind of helps because he was a very athletic tight end. That was kind of a mismatch for our guys. So that'll end up helping us a little bit against the Browns. Um, Elijah Moore is still dangerous in the slot, and I think we have Jerry and Jones starting, a rookie. So this will be a huge test for him. Because Deshaun Watson is definitely not going to be afraid to hit us over the middle. If and especially those will be the passes he'll be looking to because he won't have a lot of time in the pocket. And then especially that because our offense going against Miami's defense, against Cleveland's defense is going to be, it's going to be tough, so for lack of a better word. Cleveland's defense is definitely their calling card. Anton Harrison did not have a great game last week. I think he was better in again, the adrenaline shift did make a difference, but like once that once that fumble happened, Jalen Phillips was just living in our backfield and he made Anton Harrison kind of look like a rookie again. So hopefully and this week Anton Harrison draws Myles Garrett, the best defensive edge rusher in the NFL, right up there with TJ Watt. So hopefully Anton Harrison will be able to hold his own, at least give Trevor some time. Doug Peterson's going to have to roll out the coverage to different ways to try to mitigate that, especially with Zadarius Smith isn't any easier on the other side. Now, I think he's getting older, and I think Cam Robinson should be able to handle him. So, if they decide to put who they think is their best, I also think Anton Harrison is weird because like when Anton Harrison at his best, I think he's better than Cam Robinson. So if the Browns decide to put Myles Garrett on Harrison, that actually kind of works in our favor because Robinson is a better run blocker and we can run Etienne towards Robinson and he can help kind of pave the way. Because I think he'll be able to handle Smith. And the opposite, I think Harrison will be able to handle Smith as well. And Myles Garrett will probably give Cam Robinson some trouble. But again, it just depends on which version of Anton Harrison shows up because he's still kind of hot and cold. As far as our run blocking goes, like Mitch Morse is much better to have than Luke Fortner. Like that Miami game would have looked way worse if we didn't have Mitch Morse instead of Luke Fortner. Ezra Cleveland made some nice plays in the run game and in pass protection. He's a pretty solid standard guard. And Brandon Scherf holds up in pass protection, but his run blocking is just not that great. And we need to have a good running game against this Cleveland defense, because the only way through them is kind of between their defensive tackles because their defensive tackles aren't, world beaters. So if we can run the ball consistently, that won't allow them to play as much man because, again, Cleveland has a great secondary in addition to a great defensive line. And the only way around that is to run the ball to make them have to stretch the field and not stack the box against the run. And then that'll open things up in the middle. So Brian Thomas Jr. Oh, I didn't even get to talk about his game against Miami yet. He had a fantastic game against Miami. Really excited for the things he did as a rookie. And like that one throw Trevor had for the touchdown where he put the ball where Brian Thomas Jr., like it was crazy looking at it from Trevor's perspective because Brian Thomas Jr. wasn't even there like at all. Like it wasn't even close. It didn't even look like it looked like he was throwing it away almost, but he's so fast that he got there. And that tells me two things: that like they've practiced well enough that Trevor Lawrence knows how fast Brian Thomas Jr. is, and he knows where to put the ball to where he can run and catch it, which also means if Brian Thomas Jr. looks like he's faster than a guy, even if he looks like he's covered, like if he's covered, but Trevor can tell he's running faster, he can put the ball so far out that Brian Thomas Jr. will be able to go get it. So, great addition for us. I'm really hoping that he'll continue to do good things. And I like the way that our offense, like because he's a rookie, it's not going to feel like we got to force him the ball. It's going to feel like we can spread it around. And against the Browns, like hopefully we use him to like really stretch the field. Um, and Trevor just be okay with taking the check down, taking the dink and dunks, and just slowly making our way down the field. Because with the Cowboys, their defense with the Cleveland's defense, it's so good, but it will get tired. So it's not necessarily about hitting the big play. It's about staying on the field because Cleveland's offense is so inept that if we can force them into a 3-and-out, the Jaguars offense, all they have to do is stay on the field. Stay on the field. You don't have to hit the big play. You don't have to, like, it's hard to dink and dunk your way around the field, but that's kind of the offense I would make to tire out that defense. And then by using Brian Thomas Jr. to stretch the field, if Cleveland switches up to try to stop the dink and dunk, we can hit him for the big gain down the field. But again, all of that is you got to give Trevor time. So I think it matches up well for us against the Browns. I think we will end up with a victory. Hoping that we end up with a victory because we cannot afford a 2-0 start with the Bills at week 3. And like I said, seeing how the Bills manhandled the Dolphins last night, I picked us to win against the Bills. Uh, and I'd still like to think that we're going to, but man, it's almost like they look better than they did last year after losing all those guys. And I'm like, how? It doesn't make any sense. So we have to win against the Browns, basically. There's no other option. And again, it does kind of feel like we're free falling. So if we have a chance to like pour it on them, do it by all means. I hate to say like they deserve it, but they paid Deshaun Watson and they knew what kind of person he was, like what he was going through when they did all that. Um, People are saying that like Deshaun Watson, like they might be able to void his contract because of this new allegation. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like because the Browns took it on and chose to trade 3 first round picks, I feel like they should be able to void it so they don't have to pay him that money, but they still take the cap hits of 80 million. They have $80 million cap hits for Deshaun Watson for next year and the year after. And I feel like they should still have to take those cap hits or take it as dead money and just like have the NFL take it or something. I don't know. Some kind of I mean, I feel like the Browns have probably already been punished enough by their bad decision, but punished even more. Like it's beyond me. So anyway, um that's the idea. Jaguars, we got to go out there and beat the Browns. It's our home opener. Um I would say like if we don't win, our that would be kind of a death blow to our season just because we've got the Bills and the Texans on tap next. And so we really need to get through our first 4 games 2-2, may end up being 1-3, which is not horrible because there's a couple more winnable games. I think Jordan Love is going to come. The problem is Jordan Love, I think he's going to come back for the Packers before we play them. But if he's not 100% when he comes back, that could be a game that we end up winning. And the Jets don't look fantastic. Their defense, I mean, again, they were playing the 49ers. But, originally I picked them to win. We still need 11 wins in order to make the playoffs. But the Jets didn't look incredible. So, but either way, we need to focus in on this game because if we beat the Browns, especially in resounding fashion, we'll have the confidence that we need to go up there in Buffalo and make some big plays. I'm just amazed at the way I was watching the game and the Bills just neutralized Miami. And it's like, it was like scary for the rest of the league. Because, I mean, the Bills beat the Cardinals in week 1. Yeah, okay. I mean, the Cardinals are still rebuilding. It wasn't that crazy. And the Cardinals were winning for the first half of the game. And now it's like, oh, okay, no, the Bills aren't going away. So gotta gotta prepare for that. So either way, go beat the Browns, take it week by week, If we come out of this quarter stretch 1-3, won't be ideal, but it'll be better than coming out 0-4. So thank you to the guys for joining me on Instagram. We're probably going to go ahead and sign off here. Thank you for joining. Always the Jags. And remember, it was always the Jags. Let's go beat Cleveland.